Welcome, everybody, to the Attract and Stand Out interview series. I am so excited for today's guest. We are going to be talking with Stefanie Gary. She is a blog writer for women coaches who are growing their business. A lot of times her clients know they need to be more visible online, but they don't have the time to create great content. So she writes it, edits the blog posts, and makes it so that it is optimal for your ideal clients. Stefanie, welcome to the show today.
Thank you for having me. I'm so excited to be here.
I am so excited to have you as well. Go ahead and tell us a little bit about who you are and kind of where you live and what you're up to.
Yeah, so I'm a blog writer. I have found that I have narrowed down to the women coaches and the sphere that I've worked in, primarily because I found that my work has helped them the most. It's great helping them focus on what they do best so that they can grow their business and just make a bigger impact in the world. In my sphere, I am a wife to my high school sweetheart, which we're coming up on year 9 this summer. So I think most everybody's gotten past the whole doom of how hard that is. And I don't know. There's some people who's like, oh, what? Your high school sweetheart? That's doomed, right? Because we did get married young. I'm a mom of 2 girls. They are 7 years apart. And that is actually part of my entrepreneurial journey, the reasons behind that. And we have a dog, a Staffordshire Terrier Lab mix. So I am also a dog mom.
Yay.
And we are in the suburbs of Portland, Oregon. And a bit about my personality, depending on which system you are most knowledgeable in. I am an INFP. I'm a 7-wing 8. I'm a projector. I'm an obliger rebel. I'm a Taurus rising Leo. And the lion is my spiritual animal.
Yes, I love that. I love that you share all that. So many people are learning what their personality types are and learning about their human design and different things. And it's such a great way to be able to connect and get to know people, and you can relate to, you're like, oh, I'm that too, or I'm not that, but I totally know how, I get you.
Right, because it's communicates so much, especially when you can self-identify, yes, that is me, and therefore I'm going to share this information, and then the people who understand it can be like, oh, I know what that means, so I know much more about that personality type, so we can connect a little bit quicker, I don't like that personality, or I do like that personality. And it's a lot easier to get over that initial small talk hurdle, I find.
Yeah, that's awesome. So tell us a little bit then. So I know you have 2 young girls at home. How did you get on this path then to start your business? And I'm assuming you love to write, and that's kind of what brought you on this journey, but tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, so I was actually born partially deaf in both ears. It's a nerve deafness, so it was one of those things that I didn't get diagnosed until I was much older, almost 4 years old, and I still wasn't talking. I didn't learn to talk correctly until I did the phonics lessons in school. And so I had a speech impediment. We worked through that. So I learned to speak by learning to write. And so that's really what set my path down the whole writer's perspective on everything. I've got these pastimes in middle school where I would open a dictionary and just read words and go through this thesaurus to find out what is similar and how things are kind of the same, but why it's nuanced different. And that was a thing I actually enjoyed and did for fun, for no other reason than I had time to pass. And so I ended up expanding my vocabulary much more broadly than needed. So I would end up being accused of plagiarism in high school because I had this vocabulary that was very unusual. I had to learn to scale that back, clearly, so that I could write for my audience. So I've been learning a lot about different writing styles. I would say since high school is when I realized that there's a reason to write not for myself, but for the people who's reading it. I had my firstborn when I was 22. I was already married at this point. And so that's why I say when we're young,
Yeah.
a lot of people are like, ooh, that's not gonna last. So after she was born, I had what was postpartum PTSD. And that was because of, I'm going to get graphic here, only a little bit,
Okay.
but I had some tears and they were bad. They were the one thing I feared going in, and it was the one thing that happened to me. The recovery period, those first 6-8 weeks, actually was the worst. I don't remember any of it except for at one point in time when about a week in, I looked at my husband. I was like, I don't know that I can have another kid. Like, I don't think I can go through it again. And he was totally understanding, because he's not the one that carried it, so he doesn't know that what it feels like, but he did watch it. So I was having what I would call a quarter life crisis. This is back in winter of 2016. I'm 26 at this point. So my daughter has grown a few years, and I was scrolling through Pinterest because it existed at that point, but it was a bunch of pretty pictures, less the useful platform that it is today.
Yeah.
And I found an image that captured my attention. So I didn't understand what was going on with me at this point. But this blog post was about how to cope with postpartum PTSD, birth trauma. And I was just like, what is this? I've only ever heard of postpartum depression and anxiety. I've not heard of anything else postpartum. And so I read this birth story and I related it to it so much. I'm just crying through it. I called my own doctor and I get my own diagnosis. And it's like, oh, that's what's wrong. Well, the person who wrote that blog post actually was working on her blog to help support working mothers. A little bit of the maternity leave issues, a little bit of the rights to have options for whether you want to work in the corporate field or whether you want to build your own business. Of course, she was starting her own business, so she was sharing what she learned. She was in the early stages of her business. And so she actually launched a course for setting that up. And I took that. And that's when I was just like, oh, I could do this too. Of course, my first ideas were like, I will create a blog, and that would be the business. So after a while of working on that, I then realized that blogging as a business was not what I wanted to do. Granted, it's fun. It's more of a personal project I would like to do. I wanted to help other people. It's more about the impact is what I'm wanting to have. And so I then took a challenge in the fall of 2017, the 5 days to launch challenge. I was like, what is the thing that you already know? You don't need to take any more training, don't need to learn anything new. You already have everything. You're skilled, you've got the expertise. Set up your business around that, launch it. Like, stop trying to go for perfection. You make the progress, one page, landing page, and go on and sell yourself from that. And that's when I went ahead and launched the current version of what my business is. But I was proofreading. So I only offered proofreading at that point in time. And as my clients' needs developed, I added in editing. So that way it made a little more sense because they needed a little bit more detailed work than just proofreading. And then in, winter 2019, I joined the Make It Work online program, where I then met a coach who would encourage, borderline pushed me into stepping into being a writer. She saw the quality of work that I could do on my own as a writer. And so I was like, I did always want to be a writer. I guess I should do that. I stopped playing it small and actually would write for people.
Yeah.
And that has been amazing since. So that's been about a year now that I've been an actual blog writer.
That's amazing. So, and I love that, sometimes it takes other people to come into our lives and to push us in a direction. that we know we're meant for, but for whatever reason, like fear or procrastination or perfectionism, like all those things get in the way, and we just don't give ourselves the credit and the confidence that we need. So I love that you were able to have somebody to support you and push you forward in that, because you do write amazing work. And I love that this is a skill and a talent that you're able to bring to the world and share it with other people. And it's such a needed profession. So tell us a little, like, how do you work with your clients? And so go through that journey with us.
Yeah, so I actually offer a few different things, but ultimately what it is I do some ghostwriting interview. That way I'm writing in the client's voice. It's not me that writes, it's not my name that's attached to it. I give you the piece that you put your name on it, and it needs to sound like it came from you.
Yeah.
So I capture that voice. It's in a video call, much like what you do on Zoom, on Skype, on Google Hangouts. I mean, all the different platforms. It ultimately doesn't matter. But I get the visual elements because I'm also interpreting your body language, because that also conveys a lot of meaning, like your facial expressions. And sometimes if you're very expressive, emojis actually make sense, because there's some things that you can't convey in words that makes more sense to convey in pictures. And might be not emojis, but GIFs. It might be something else that's a visual element, like you've got to interpret that into the writing too, that's needed, because there's a whole range of emotions you're trying to capture. And so once I got that interview done and I've captured the voice, and then I also provide the blog posts for whatever your preferred schedule is to publish. And that can be once a month, it can be every week. That's kind of the range that I go through for my clients, just because that's the schedule that I set for myself. Yeah. So I've got 1, 2, or 4 blog posts a month packages. And because of what I do on the SEO side, which is search engine optimization, it's more of a long-term strategy. So I have it so it's a minimum of 3 months, which could be 3 to 12 blog posts in that time period. And I help it so that you see the before and after of what Google Analytics says about your website. Are you getting more traffic? Are you being found more? What keywords are you getting found for? And so I help you with the back end of that as well. And then I also have another service offer as far as the blog post idea validation. We basically just take those brainstormed ideas that you might have had, the questions your clients might have asked or anything like that, and we go together and find out what idea will give you the biggest turnaround, the quickest turnaround for getting more traffic. So your client might have asked you how you do something, but that might not be the thing that you need to write about right now, even though that's the idea that inspired you. It might need to tweak that question a little bit so it can be found easier. There's all sorts of different little nuances as to finding out how to get that blog post idea that gets you the biggest return on your investment of time, effort, or money.
Yeah.
And then, yeah. Go ahead.
Can you talk a little bit more about that? Because I think SEO is something that people know, like they know they should have an SEO blog post. They know that they want to use these keywords and they want to show up in Google and they want to show up on Pinterest and with the SEO on there or even on YouTube. What do you see as like the biggest challenge that most entrepreneurs are having then with showing up and finding those words? Because I know a lot of people I talk to, they think that they have it SEO friendly, but then in reality, like it's not actually, like they're not using those keywords. So what do you tell your clients for the main purpose behind that and how to find the words that are going to be easiest for them to pull up?
So I've found that there's 2 big problems. They don't know how to find the right keywords. Like, what's the whole process? How do you even read the information they're finding when they're doing their keyword research? They're using tools, but like, how do you understand the data that's given to you? And then beyond that is how to use those keywords in their content. So I already have a blog post that tells you about where to put the keywords. But then I get together and it's that blog post idea validation that I'm actually helping find the keywords that actually will get them the results, and understanding what the search volume even means, how to understand that lower is actually better sometimes, why you might want to target a higher search volume one versus a lower volume one, understanding search difficulties. So whether or not you're likely to get ranked on the first page of Google with a higher search rank or a lower search rank on your options. And it comes down to, I help them interpret data. And then it comes to naturally plugging in those keywords that you've selected for the blog post. That's the on-page SEO. If we're going to get all into the jargon here.
Yeah.
So it's that on-page SEO and all that work. But the key is Google understands when something is valuable without being plugged with so many keywords in all the different spots. It's got to read naturally for the human, because you are writing first for the human on the other side, for that potential client you want to attract. You can't write for Google to rank you. They're going to see right through that. The AI is really advanced at this stage, and it just keeps getting better.
That's a great point to bring up too, because I think I've seen blog posts before where like they've used the same word so many times in the blog post, and it's because you're like, they're trying to like get that word hit. But yeah, you're right. Like, it doesn't have to be in every single sentence. It doesn't have to be like overused. You want it to be like a natural flow to where when someone's reading it, they're able to relate to you and connect, and they understand where you're going with the story, not seeing whatever the word is like 57 times inside that post. So I think that's such a valuable service that you provide too, that you're able to help these clients determine what words are right for them. And I liked how you mentioned it too. Like, you might have a question that you're being asked by your audience, and you can answer that question, but you might have, like, your title might be tweaked a little bit different to be more SEO friendly, so that you're able to be found on Google, as well as give your clients the answers that they're looking for as well. So it's like a dual purpose, and it partners together. And I love that you take some of that guesswork out for your clients too, because it takes time. I know when I've sat down and like looked up words, like it can take sometimes 10 minutes to an hour, depending on how deep I want to like research it, to find the right words. And you're so skilled at doing that you're able to take that stress off of your client. And that's like another piece to what you're providing. That's less work for them to think about.
Oh, yes. I'm all about making blogging easy for my clients.
Yeah, that's awesome. So what have been some of the biggest challenges with growing your business that you found so far? And how have you overcome them?
Ooh, biggest challenges. That's a great question. I would actually say that it's been my mindset behind the business. I have found, in hindsight, I found that I did a lot of self-sabotaging things to myself and my business. And whether that was just before landing a client, I then all of a sudden like kind of retreat for some reason. Like I can't figure out why I did the things I do, but like I would hide. It was like, oh, I'm going to have somebody who actually wants my work. Great. But, oh gosh, now I'm sick. I need to go do this thing over here.
Yeah.
And like, it was just so ridiculous looking back. I'm just like, why did I do that? So I have found that I really need to get in on that, the mindset work. And it has been life-changing at this point, because now it is so much easier to not fall into those bad patterns and to bounce back if I even start to being like, oh, I need to like hide, because visibility is scary for me. It is the one thing that I didn't like about being a business owner. I don't want to be the face of my business, even though I am the business kind of thing. So I kind of have to be visible. So it's been a process that I have had to work through. And it has been so much easier when I find the things that helps me be visible without feeling like I'm putting myself on blast. It's like I'm too visible, because I'm not the type that enjoys being in the center of attention.
Yeah. And a lot of entrepreneurs struggle with that because, like you said, like when you start your own business, you're the face, you're the brand, and you have to build this personal brand that is resonating with people and it's attracting people in, and you're standing out and putting yourself out there on video and writing content and showing up in all these places. And a lot of times it's a lot, because some of us like to say we're introverts and we don't want to be seen. We'd rather be like behind the scenes, or we'd rather do the work and not necessarily put ourselves out there. But it's that beautiful blend that we have to create of being visible and showing up, but then creating this amazing product for our clients. And you have to put yourself out there. It has to be the forefront, and you can't hide behind it. And I think it's interesting, like the point that you brought, like the mindset behind showing up and being visible and getting people interested. And then a lot of clients I've talked to have had that, where like they'll get people interested and they'll do their discovery call, and they'll have a session with somebody, and like you'll be waiting to hear if they're going to work with you, and you're like afraid to reach back out and be like, hey, we had a great call, I'd love to work with you. And it's that mindset shift of, you know, having the confidence and clarity that you can help your client, and showing up in a way that makes you feel good about it. That's so important. So you're not alone in that. So many of my clients are like, okay, I put myself out there, but now I'm afraid, like they actually want to work with me. Like, what do I do next? And I'm like, you just do it. Like, go ask them, like tell them how to pay, tell them what the next step is, hold their hand and guide them through the journey. But it's such a common thread that people are visible, but then when they come to them, they're like, well, wait a minute, now what do I do? So it's interesting.
It's so much easier to play at being a business owner than it is to be the business owner. And playing at being a business owner, I have found, is just like, it's the fun. I pretend to be the business owner. Like I'm thinking I'm doing the work, but it's not really work that's moving the needle. It's not the stuff that generates the income at the end of the day. And so I feel good about doing the thing, but I'm not actually being productive.
Yeah, no. So what strategies have worked the best for you then to attract your ideal audience to you and to really grow your business? What has been like your top strategy?
Yeah, so I have found that working on actually building a relationship with people have been the biggest thing. And that's going into Facebook groups and actually answering questions and not expecting anything out of it. That's connecting with people on Instagram and talking to them, answering their questions, helping them out when they have a problem. That's going to in-person networking events and I'm connecting with someone. We might have a coffee date, a lunch date. We don't necessarily talk about anything in particular. I'm just actually getting to know the person and developing a friendship with these people in this sphere. And yes, I do talk about what it is that I do. So they're not unaware, but I'm focusing on the relationship more than the transaction out of that conversation.
Yeah. And that's such a valid thing that we need to do. It's not, you're not going into these relationships and like, here I am, buy for me. This is what I'm selling. Like, when do you want to sign up? It's building that relationship and nurturing it and building like a community around yourself so that you have people that you know that you can connect them to. And at the same time, like you're not expecting from them, but when they're ready to buy, they know that you're there and they know what you do and they've been watching, right? Like so many of the clients that I've worked in the past have been part of my community for months and years sometimes, and they've never even raised their hand before and like even conversed with me or like responded to videos or responded to blog posts or those different things. They've been like silently on the wall, like a fly, I guess, like watching and listening, and like they're still there, but they don't always react and respond as much. But it's so important to just remember that like people are listening, and you want to keep nurturing and building that relationship because that's where the business comes from. And it might not even be directly from them. It might be a referral from them because they're watching and they're listening and they see what you do, and they don't maybe need your service at that time. It's not something that they need, But as soon as somebody comes into their lives and they're needing, somebody who wants to write their blog for them, they can be like, oh my gosh, let me talk. You need to connect with my friend Stefanie. She's amazing at this. I think that you guys would partner great. And that's when I think true relationships are built. And it's when you're just nurturing that community and focused on that, sales come because of that.
Yes. And along the same lines, that's part of the whole collaboration over competition. I don't think that there's any other writer that I have in my sphere that isn't working on a totally different thing. There's someone who's more writes for publications of like the newspapers or the magazines who I will refer, and she can refer to me. There's another who writes for these big corporate businesses. I don't work with them, but she doesn't really work with the small business owners who are the women coaches who it's just like maybe have 5 employees at most. And so we connect with each other too and like help refer to each other. It's been all about that community, because even though we do technically the same work, the writing, we do something so different that we still have a mutually beneficial relationship to focus on collaborating with each other, even if it's just a simple, hey, I don't do that work, but my friend over here does.
Yeah. And that's how you can, I think, thrive as an entrepreneur, is having those relationships, because you're right. It's not about competition. It's not about getting the next client and overstepping your boundaries, but it's about just giving and sharing and referring people back and forth. And that's what people, I think, treasure the most out of relationships, is knowing that like, I don't have to compete against you. There's so many people that do the exact same work that we do. It's about showing up and having yourself stand out. That's why I talk a lot about sharing your story as part of your messaging and putting that out there, because people are going to relate to your story, and that's what's going to attract them in. They might not relate to somebody else in your exact same industry and their story. And that's okay too. Like you almost want to like repel the people that aren't your ideal clients and attract the ones that are your actual ideal clients into you, and do that in like a beautiful way. So there's no competition anymore. It's just about who's connecting the most with you and who you can refer out and how you can share. And there's so many clients out there that we can work with. You don't have to like, it's not feast or fathom where you're like, you're the only person in the whole entire world and I must get you. You must be my client. Like you can share the love, and you're going to be able to refer them and attract the right people at the right time. So yeah. So thinking back with your business then, what do you wish you would have told yourself, like your early business entrepreneurial self, from what you know now?
Yeah, so I wish I would have paid more attention to those woo-woo crazy people in all those Facebook groups. I would see the things and I'd be like, wow, they've gone off the deep end. Like, what are they talking about? Oh, the universe? What? The law of attraction? Oh, there's no law of attraction. That doesn't even make any sense. Like, I would think so logically. Like, I was basically a strategies person and like zero mindset person.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness. That load of crack, I say with air quotes here, is actually the key to the successful business. I mean, yeah, 20% of it might be the strategies, but like it's you can't have a successful business if you're just going to self-sabotage, which you can't fix that without the mindset work. So listen to the woo-woos and maybe even find something that's a little bit more like tangible, like things that you can do with it. Because that's what I've been doing, is the woo-woo work. So I wish I had done that from the beginning. That way I could shorten my frustration period, because there have been times when I wish I had not gotten stuck or understood why I was getting stuck, because it did not make any logical sense. And I was coming up against, like, everything kept pointing me back to the woo-woo things. I kept seeing it pop up in my feeds. I would keep seeing it all over the place with the people I followed. I was just like, I don't get this. Until finally I stopped trying to block it off and actually looked into it. And it would have been much better if I had known from the beginning.
Yeah, but I think that I know for myself, like I didn't grow up with a lot of woo in my life. Like that wasn't something that was part of my family, or like my mom and my dad, like they were very practical people, I feel like.
Hmm.
But the more that I've branched out and like learned personal development and learned more about myself, like that's when I realized like I have to work on my mindset. I enjoy finding out more about my human design and like what makes me tick and what works well for me and what doesn't work well. But I don't think like I think it's more of a common thing. I would say in like the past 5 years, like it's become more acceptable, and people are like, you want that perfect blend of like woo and strategy. You don't just need 100% strategy or 100% woo. Like it's finding that balance of knowing what to do and when to do it, but then also listening to your body and listening to your heart and your gut, and maybe stay out of our mind a little bit more too, and like listen to what our body is telling us. And that's where I think some of that woo can come back into it as well.
Yeah, I heard the expression. I think it is perfect. So listen to your heart and use your mind to get right there.
Yeah, and it's so true. Like my human design is a manifesting generator, and I have to listen to my gut. Like, and I do better when I don't make a quick snap decision. Like if somebody asks me to help them with something or to do something out of my normal, like if I sleep on it and like take time to process and make sure that it's the right thing for me, I show up in such a better way versus where if I say yes immediately and then I might regret it later on. And so it's been like that balance act of really listening to what my body needs. And when I say yes now, because I've slept on it and taken some time to make sure it's what I want to do, like I show up in such a better way and I actually want to be there and I want to be doing that. Where my old self would be like, oh, I would say yes to everybody because I'm a people pleaser, I'm an obliger, I want to help everybody. I'll put myself last all day long. Like I will do everything for everybody else. And that doesn't work for me though. Like just because I will do that and I can do that, like I end up putting myself last and I take care of myself in a way that's not how I should. Like I won't exercise, I won't eat properly, I won't get the right amount of sleep because I'm too busy saving the world, right? And making this big impact. But now that I know that about myself, I tell people like, thank you so much for this opportunity. Let me sleep on it. I'm going to get back to you tomorrow. And instead of, or if I get an email, like I don't have to respond in that moment. Like it's okay to not respond immediately and sleep on it. And I don't always have to sleep on it, but sometimes it's like it happens in the morning and I might just give myself the day to think about it. But giving myself that space has been like a huge shift for me. And it's something that I never would have realized had I not like started to like discover my human design a little bit better and like learn what works for me and what doesn't. So I think it's super powerful to take that little bit of woo and add it to our lives. Is
Mm-hmm.
there is there a specific woo, like when you say woo, like that has been the most impactful for you? Like do you meditate? Do you light a candle? Do you what types of things work the best for you?
So as a writer, I journal. Yeah. So it came back to wanting to reinforce the thoughts that I want to believe in. And so I repeatedly journal basically the same page every day. And that takes me like 5 minutes because at this point I've basically got it memorized and I just write out the full sheet and that's what I want. And I've done some tweaks. I've added in a sentence or two. I've taken some out because I've either it wasn't quite right or it didn't make sense or I'm already so down pat with that. But it's still that daily practice of thinking about the thing that I want to believe in. And by repeating the thoughts every day, even if it's just the 5 minutes that I do with this, um, it helps make it so tangible because at least it's black and white on paper in front of me.
Yeah.
Um, and then it makes it more realistic. I start believing in it. And then at that point, I will then start taking the actions that will support the beliefs that I have to get the results that I want to support those thoughts that I'm working on making something that I believe at this
Yeah.
point. So that has been it. I have taken a few different affirmations and pulled them together, customized it so that it works for me and my situation. But I didn't know what affirmations would work for me until I wrote out all those different beliefs that I already had. Those things, what do I think about the money? What do I think about clients? What do I think about it's just getting everything I want. Like, what do I think about all the different things? And like any emotion that I have about any thought I have, writing it all out, and then deciding, did that feel like it was right? Did that feel like something I wanted to believe in? And just going through that list. I mean, this is like a 5-page list. This is
Yeah.
huge. And then writing what I'd rather believe in if it was something I wanted to change. And so that process has been, I would say, life-changing. But it took me a week just to get through that, because there was a lot of the negatives that I was cleaning out. And so like I felt physically sick during this process. I cried multiple times because I realized just how untrue certain things were that I did not want to believe, but was holding me back, because I still believed that making money was hard work, that I can't have fun at work. I can't enjoy the things I do to make money. Well, I don't want to believe that, but that's what I've been raised to believe. And so I'm rewriting it that money comes to me easily. I enjoy what I do every day. And so by repeating that, and change my thoughts.
Yeah. And I love that you get to write your own story, right? Like you get to shift that mindset and you get to create a new generational pattern, because a lot of the things that we learn, what you just said, like we learn it from our families, we learn it from our parents and the generations prior, and we get to be the generation that makes that change, and that will trickle down and affect the new generation to come, which I think is like one of the coolest things I think about making an impact and leaving a legacy and like doing the work that we do is we're changing patterns, we're changing beliefs, we're changing the mindset, and we're taking the time to put the effort in to do these things. And it's hard work. It's not easy to like shift that mindset when it's been so ingrained in something that we were taught. Because you have to physically and mentally like give it space and allow yourself to make those shifts. And then that's what you teach your children, and they'll teach their children. So I love the generational pattern breaks that can come from the hard work that we're doing, especially in this day and age when we have our access is so big to the internet and to see so much more than we were able to even when I was a kid. Our kids nowadays, like they're on YouTube at like 2 years old, right? They're exposed to so many different things that we didn't have exposure to. So in making sure that it's the right things that they're exposed to and helping shift that going forward.
Yeah, I actually would do the journaling, even though it's only 5 minutes. I would do it intentionally in front of my family. Like my husband's how I used to be as far as like doesn't believe in any of the woo things. So like at first I wanted to hide it from him, and then I realized like by letting him watch me, I can allow him the opportunity to learn better. If he wants to talk about it, fine, but I'm not going to force anything on him. Well, when I did it in front of my daughter at the dining table, she asked me what I was doing, and she just kept asking questions. This is at 7 years old. I explained to her in the most basic way if I can, which I also let her read the whole page and then talked about it. And by golly, it took like 5 minutes and she understood exactly what I was talking about. Like there was no like ingrained like negativity about what is or isn't possible. And I was just like, oh my goodness, I may have trouble doing this, but she's going to be set off on the right foot from the beginning.
Yeah.
So she's going to have those conversations with herself that is about love, as opposed to hating anything or being negative about what is going on around her. And I was so impressed that she even could understand the fundamentals of what is basically the law of attraction, because she understood that everything starts with her thoughts. And so she stopped, actually, this was like last week, she stopped recently talking about how she can't do this, can't do that, or like she's totally forgetful. And like, okay, so everybody forgets things every time, like, because you get a lot of things on your plate. But she would keep telling herself that she's super forgetful. And it would bother me knowing what I know now. But since having this conversation where she understands that it's the thoughts that trickle down into all these other things, she stopped saying this to herself. And it's getting better.
Yeah.
Now it's continual work. And we are going to keep working on that specific one. But there's other examples as well that it's already showing itself.
Yeah. Well, they're such sponges at that age too. So like this is the time, pretty much from born until like I'd say like 10 to 12ish, like where they're soaking in and they learn so many of those fundamental things. So the more they see mom and dad doing, or the more that they're witnessing how you're showing up in the world and the activities that you do, those are going to be the patterns that they start to hold on to, and they'll remember like, oh, my mom used to sit at the table and journal, and she'll start sitting at the table and journaling at some point probably because she knows it was something that you did, and it's part of what she's used to. Mm-hmm. So I love that. Yeah, I just like it amazes me with my daughter, even like with what things she's watching and what conversations she'll come home and she'll have with me, and she'll be like, this week she was at her play practice, and some of the girls in the group next to her, like they were looking over at her group and they were giggling, and like my daughter could tell they were talking about them, and she came home and it really bothered her, and I was like, well, next time ask them, say, it's okay to be like, can I help you guys? Like, how you keep looking over and talking to us, like, did you have a question about what we're doing? Or, like just engage with it, and not in like a mean girl way back, but like change the conversation and like let it be known. Like, you don't have to come home and be like, Mom, I was really upset. Like these girls were talking about me. Like I was like, next time they do it, like go over and talk to them. Maybe they want to learn the dance that you guys are doing, or maybe just you walking over and asking them a question will change that dialogue, and they won't talk about you anymore. They'll include you in the conversation instead of talking about. So it's shifting some of those things, because I remember being young and having like those mean girl mentalities at school, right? Like there was always like the different cliques and the circles, and I'm like, let's disrupt that a little bit. Like I was definitely not encouraged to engage like or to go have those conversations, but for her I was like, it's okay, like step over there and ask them a question, find out what they're actually talking about. Maybe they're not making fun of you, maybe they're like, you did something and they thought it was so cute, and they were talking about like, look at how cute she is over there, like she's learning this new dance, because they were a little bit older. It's like, you don't know what they're saying though, so unless you are brave, like I work with her a lot to be brave and like to be confident. I'm like, be brave and go over and start change the conversation. Mm-hmm. And I think she thought I was a little bit crazy, to be quite honest, but like I know she's like, it's in her mind now, like that she could change the conversation if she wants to. And I think that it's important for all of us to do that. But our kids are watching, they're learning, and they're observing so many different things, which is so cool to watch. Especially like you have daughters too, and I have 3 boys and 1 daughter, but like watching her is so amazing to me, like to see life through her eyes now as a mom versus when I was her age and going through those experiences. So, but yeah, so tell me, what does success mean for you in your business?
Oh, that is a great question. And my definition of success changes as I hit the goals. So at one point in time, my version of success is what I'm living today. Today, what I say my success is a consistent 5-figure month through a full product suite, which is going to be one-on-one services, some courses, and some actual like downloadable product. That's what I have already in mind. And then I'd want, with the one-on-one clients, I'd want about 3 to 5, depending on how many posts, because I've got a top limit here. 3 to 5 clients that fill out my calendar on a monthly basis, and that way I can help them make blogging easier. And it's going to be those product suite, that's the courses or the downloadable content that is going to help me make a bigger impact for more people. Because as much as I want to save everybody, I can't do that. And so like I'll take the one-on-one and I will get really down into it and make those changes, but then I'm going to help more people with the other offers. Yeah. And so that is my version of success, is that the more impact that I make for these other businesses, that they're making the impact too. So I guess I'd be that first rock in a puddle of water, making the ripple effect.
I love that. Yeah, I love that we can create these ripple effects in the lives of the people around us. It's such a beautiful thing to watch. So this has been so fun talking with you, Stefanie. And before we kind of wrap things up, I have a couple of like rapid fire fun questions to ask you.
Okay.
And we'll just go through them really quickly. And you have no idea what these questions are, which is my favorite part about it. So I'm curious if you have a morning or a night routine. And if you do have one of those, what does that look like for you?
So my morning routine includes my infant. So there is a wake up to the baby monitor because she's crying. There's then a diaper change, some breastfeeding, and then depending on what the day's plans are, because I plan out my week ahead of time, so I have an idea before I wake up what's going on. And I usually get her dressed, or we go and hang out and play for a little while, and that will be what I do. It's when she goes down for her first nap that I switch from being a mom to being the business owner. And I like to start that with sitting down and actually helping people. And I've got a timer for that, so I don't get into that social media rabbit hole. I do that both on Instagram and Facebook. That is where I'm at, and then I can be inspired at that point to actually hop on these calls that I have, because I'll have meetings during that 10 to noon time frame for me. And at that point, I actually get energized from these one-to-one conversations.
Yeah.
And then I do have a nighttime routine as well. So the youngest goes to bed somewhere in that 6 to 7 o'clock time frame, depending on how the day's nap successfully went, or maybe not, because that still happens. And the oldest goes to bed by 8 o'clock on school nights for sure. And so at that 8 to 9 time frame, it's my self-care hour, which can be anything from that's where I journal. I do journaling every night at some point there. But that can be the journaling. That can be where I take care of my hair, because my hair is really important to me. I can be painting my nails. I might shave my legs if I feel like it. I mean, it just really depends. And now that we're coming to springtime, I'm going to start shaving my legs again.
Yeah.
Jeans make it so much easier, especially when you work from home. I don't have to shave.
Right.
And then at that point, that's when I write. I get my writing in at night, because I'm a nighttime person.
Okay. That's awesome. Who has made the biggest impact on your life?
Mm.
And it could be like a book, an author, an influencer in your life. Just who's like that top person that you always think of, like that kind of helped you get on this path that you're on today?
There are so many different people who've made a huge impact. I would have to say that one blogger I mentioned earlier about the postpartum PTSD, I would say she's probably the biggest impact that I'll go ahead and call out for here, because I continue to watch her journey even to this day. She's got that 6-figure business, breaking on 7 figures. She's had that second child who was that anecdotal evidence of it's doable and not have a traumatic experience again. That gave me the confidence to go for my second child. And she's been a great friend and mentor for what is possible.
It's amazing. Yeah. And it's so important to have somebody that you can look up to and has gone on the path before you and helps make it feel easier. And you know that it can come to fruition. So I love that. If you could travel anywhere, like if I gave you an airline ticket right now, where would you go?
Oh, so I want to go all across Europe. And the first place I'd probably land would be in England, London. I want to check out all the tourist sites. I mean, I'm a big Doctor Who fan, so like I see all these little places and I'm like, I want to check that out. And like, I know there's more to it than that, but like I want to go across all of England, go up into Scotland, go over to Ireland, go down to Paris, Spain. Like I want to go all across the places there. So that is definitely among the top of my bucket list.
Awesome. And everybody is going to want to connect with you. Where do you like to hang out? I know you're on social media. Where should people come find you?
Yeah, so I am on Instagram most actually these days, and it is underscore Stefanie Gary. And I'm also on my Facebook still every day too. And that is Stefanie Gary Edit.
Awesome. And do you have any opt-ins or free gifts that you'd like to let people know about on your site?
Yeah, I have a whole writing process checklist that goes through the keyword research, through the writing, the editing, the SEO, keyword plugin, like where you actually put those keywords that you found, proofreading, formatting, and the actual promotion of the blog post. And it's all in one big master checklist. It's available on my website at stefaniegary.com/5-blog-content checklists.
Awesome. I'll make sure we put that link in the notes as well because I already forgot it. So we'll make sure it's in there so that people can grab that as well. Well, thank you so much, Stefanie, for being a part of the show today. It's been so fun learning your journey of starting your business and kind of some of your top tips that you were able to share today to write blogs. So we appreciate you coming in. Thank you so much.
Thank you. It was great being here. Have a great time.